What's up, guys? Casey and George back on another Tuesday, 5 Eastern, 4 Central. You can see it live every single Tuesday, absolutely free. Facebook, YouTube, wherever you find your podcast, go on Bracket Racing Live. Like, share, subscribe on all those platforms so you never miss an episode. But of course, GBR Live is brought to you by TSR Racing Products, Champs Performance Parts, BRG 3D printed parts, Syntex Printing out there in Temple, Texas, and Driven Racing Oil, where you can use the code GBR10, get yourself 10% off your order. Everything ships for free to your door, over $99. George, what is new?
Absolutely nothing, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Just another day. It's getting nice outside, man. We're moving into that fall weather really, really fast here in North Texas. I don't think it got much over 80, 85 degrees here, which with no humidity, that's pretty good. Good dry air, and look forward to seeing if old Mo can make a couple of good passes for me this weekend down at the old cow pastures at old Ardmore Dragway. But other than that, Casey, man, I have no complaints. It's another day, man. Big breaking news, though, if you saw on the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel and the Facebook page and things, Paige Hamlin is aligning with IHRA, so the Hamlin Motorsports and the producer of the six-shooter down here at Extreme Raceway Park is now aligning with IHRA. That's good news to me, man. Anytime you see a prominent bracket racing family align with a sanctioning body that is seemingly rebuilding right now, it's got to mean good things for us.
Absolutely, man. And with what a great job she did at the six-shooter race, I can only imagine if she does that with the assets and everything that IHRA has to offer, then who knows where that's going to end up going, man. It's only going to help the racers. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, a fact about it. So definitely, guys, make sure you hit that like and subscribe. If you got time, hit that share button, because what we got coming up next, you guys don't want to miss. Someone I know, everybody, if you're in the bracket racing, drag racing, NHRA, pro stock is my favorite class anyway. I'm just going to throw that out there right off the bat. But if you've ever watched it, I know you know the name. Or if you're a bracket racer or a drag racer, you get this little yellow book in the mail, and it might say Jegs on the top of it. Well, none other than Jeg Coughlin himself has joined us on the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel. Jeggy, what's going on?
Not much. Thanks for having me on tonight. Going to be an exciting show.
Hey, definitely. As always, Jeggy, when we have a guest on the show here at Going Bracket Racing, we ask the one question that always has a great story behind it. I'm expecting a pretty good one here too. How did you get into bracket racing?
Gotcha. Great question. I grew up in a racing family. So my father, Jeg, his last ride was a professional ride, was a top fuel dragster. And I was probably 8, 9 years old. And my oldest brother, John, was probably 16 or 17 years old. So here's this top fuel outfit that had my father, a crew chief, and then 4 kids working on a top fuel car, going to many of the NHRA races in the late 70s and early 80s. And so that's kind of a real quick snapshot of what I grew up around. When my father retired from top fuel racing, 80, 81 timeframe, my brother John got into bracket racing. And it was very, very different, as you can imagine, growing up in a professional class. But I really took to it very well. And I was very young, but I really enjoyed racing of all aspects. Enjoyed going with my brother, and really enjoyed learning about bracket racing and how much is involved in it. And this, again, is like 1983, so I'm 12 and 13 years old. But I couldn't get enough of it. I was looking to get out of school to go racing. Whatever I could do to go racing, I was in. And so that's how I got involved in bracket racing. Fast forward a couple of years, found myself in a ramp truck, driving the Midwest and a lot of the U.S. here with Steve Cohen. He was a good family friend and a great racer, as we know, and a great bracket racer. And so, I'll never forget a lot of the conversations he and I had. Again, I'm 13 now, maybe 14 in some cases. And kind of asking him questions and getting his responses. And but my favorite Cohen story is a lot of you know Steve Cohen out there. We'd be driving down the road and I might be dozing off next to him. He'd poke me and say, "Hey man, what are you doing? You can't be sleeping. I can't go to sleep." So I ended up, we talked all through the day and all through the night as we were traveling, and he was a big instrument and very instrumental in me learning about bracket racing. Additionally, to my family and weather stations, how to use the weather stations, and when I got behind the wheel of a car for the first time was in Street Eliminator, and took to it, and man, I can remember that night like it was yesterday. It was probably, I think I was 15 years old at National Trail Raceway. Don't tell anybody. It was I wasn't quite 16 yet, and that would have been frowned upon at the time. But somehow I snuck into the Street Eliminator, and I think it was 6 rounds later, found myself going up into the tower to collect the coveted National Trail Raceway trophy and little winner's sticker, and I think $50. And from that moment, I was hooked well before that, but that was a moment that cherishes into the highest moments of my career still today, and been fortunate to have quite a few triumphs along the way.
Definitely, man. That might be one of those scenarios where whenever they're getting ready to pay, you're like, "Dad, what do I do?" That's how it happened to me whenever I was younger. I didn't know how I was supposed to get paid, because then they want this thing called Social Security number and all this stuff. You're like, "I don't know what to do here." But man, with everything you've accomplished in drag racing, between, I want to say, you've won, I want to say, in 7 different categories, including becoming a pro stock champion, which is the pinnacle of what sportsman racers typically, imagine as far as a pro career goes. What gets Jake Coughlin excited to go racing in 2022 now that you're no longer in the pro ranks per se?
I think growing up in the sport and just having the passion of the sport in general is what keeps me fired up, throughout the years. As you mentioned, in the late 90s, I transitioned a lot from kind of the NHRA sportsman ranks and bracket racing into professional racing. And in 98 was my first full season behind the wheel of a pro stock car. But you would still see me show up at 1 or 2 races, maybe 1 race a year, or every couple of years I would end up at the 5-day at Moroso, or a big race, near our home in Columbus, Ohio. So I think just the pure drive of trying to be perfection. Bracket racing is all about perfection. That doesn't just start on Friday when you show up at the track. It's Monday in the shop and Tuesday in the shop, and just fine tuning everything. But I think that's what fires me up is just trying to make as perfect of runs as you can, run after run after run. And when you look at 2022 and I'm sure 2023 will be very similar. There are countless opportunities to run locally and or big money bracket racing. So there's no shortage of opportunities to go racing.
Absolutely. I'm going to take a time here to pull a question in from the chat. It's along the lines of where I'm going to go to next. Bracket Racer 1 coming into us from YouTube. How is Troy Jr. Positioned in pro stock currently? I'm going to answer just because I've been watching. I'm pretty sure he's doing quite well. Jackie, you care to elaborate?
Yeah, I think he's doing fantastic. He's certainly, for a kid similar to myself that grew up around the sport, there was no question if NHRA pro stock racing was on, he was watching, listening, or was physically there. And I'm talking from a very, very young age to today. So at any rate, but I think you fast forward to the last year, 2021, 2022, where he's been full-time in the pro stock ranks. I think he's done one hell of a job. It's not an easy feat. There's more to balance than just hopping in and driving the car. And I think, he stepped into a team that I stepped out of at Elite Motorsports, and was very. I think that was a big plus for him because he knew the relationship I had with Ricky Jones, let's say, and all the guys on the team, and now Mark Ingersoll and Richard Freeman, Erica, and the whole group. So I think that was certainly shortcutted quite a bit for him. Again, when you look at 2022 and you look at where we are in the season, they're getting ready to go into their third race of the countdown, and he's in third place. So, missed, I think Erica is first, and then Aaron Stanfield, and then TJ's right there in third. So certainly, I think he's doing one hell of a job. Got his first win just a couple months ago, first official pro stock win, which was, I was down here in South Florida at the time, and like I said, I don't miss many of his runs. I haven't been to a race since I stepped from behind the wheel in person, but I've missed very, very few runs on NHRA.tv, and it's amazing. The coverage there is fantastic, and for me, having been in the car for 20 plus years and understanding, what he's dealing with on a run-to-run basis, the coverage is fantastic, and the feedback and the communication that he and I have, we've had a lot of fun with, and he's done extremely well. Long-windedly, imagine that.
Now, George, before you say your next question, I noticed you skipped over one in here because it's not one that you're necessarily going to like, but fixing used race cars. Jake, this is an inside joke on this channel pretty much because George goes on and on about who the GOAT of pro stock is, but Fixing Used Race Cars says you're talking to the GOAT, George, and it's not Erica or me.
Yes, I am an Erica Enders fan. The girl has ice water running through her veins. If, as a matter of fact, she's 0 degrees Celsius, so I don't think it's ice water. I think it's just ice at that point. So no, 1 year I watched her run, and she was Triple O versus Jason Line. She had my attention. I think it was Vegas in a championship race, and I think Line might have been 005 or 003 or something like that. Yeah. Right to boot. So no, that's one of my faves right there. Thanks.
And
thanks,
a Texan.
And a Texan. All right, I'm a Texan as well. So Team Texas. There you go. So and kind of piggybacking off of pro stock category, you're a bracket racer as well. So this question, I know you would be probably, in my opinion, the best to answer this particular question. Do you have a different mindset going into a pro stock car versus a bracket car? Kind of comparing, for us, how you set up for a win in pro stock versus in bracket. What do you think?
The mindset's actually very, very similar. It all starts with kind of, in either case, in my opinion, and this is just from a driving perspective, in bracket racing, you've got a tick more than just the driving aspect to deal with some of the elements with the wind and the track conditions and the air conditions to also factor into each and every decision and or run. On the pro stock side, I had some input on some of the setup of the car, but we had a whole brain trust in my lifetime at JEGS and at Elite Motorsports and the teams that I worked with throughout the years. So I'll say, just from a driving standpoint, the preparation was very similar. I mean, as both of you know, as racers, and many of in our audience here that are racers, understand that being able to have a good game plan going into your run is very, very important. And in my case, in many cases, you have to have maybe 2 or 3 different game plans. And the reason is you can't control every variable of a run in pro stock or bracket racing. And I think having more than one game plan at your disposal helps always keep you on the offense and keep things in a positive fashion for you. Because we're dealing with sub-second, 10 thousandths of 1 second results. So any little error can compound in a hurry. But I think having a good game plan is very important. I think rehearsing that in your mind almost as you're approaching your run. Let's say you're in the staging lanes and you've got your game plan, you're kind of visualizing that. And then I think it's important the discipline and focus side of things need to be at a pinnacle at that point. And I think between those three things, you can accomplish quite a bit behind the wheel, and limit a lot of mistakes that a lot of us do make and have made and will continue to make. But long pole, if you have a hell of a good game plan or two, and you can stick to your game plan and remain disciplined and focused to stay at the task at hand, which bracket racing is the burnouts are pretty typically pretty repeatable and very, not, I don't want to say simple, but can be very 1, 2, 3 and go as planned. But I think once you're approaching the pre-stage, I think from that point forward, you've got probably a good, minute of discipline that needs to be just set its all-time high at that point. And being able to execute from there is extremely important. And the greatest thing about drag racing is if you do all that properly and your win light comes on, you get to come back and do it again. Unless it's the end of the day and you're hoisting a wally or hoisting a trophy, then that is an unbelievable feeling. And not to sound corny, but I mean, in pro stock when I raced for, you would only race, you'd race 20 events a year, 16 to 23 depending on the season, and I'd have to put reminders in my Outlook calendar to pop up at like 10:30 in the morning on Sunday morning, just to try and keep a kind of a thought in my mind to keep me focused and a goal to work toward. In some cases, say I was off base the week before and I just didn't want to make that error again the coming week, and would have a little reminder there, and that was helpful for me and can be helpful for a lot of our listeners here.
Definitely. And, speaking of the word discipline, that kind of plays into what I wanted to ask you next, which is, as far as discipline goes, how does discipline tie into bracket racing today versus, say, bracket racing 20 years ago? Because there's so many new tactics out there of how people can win races and how, like, for example, if you really go look back through statistics of like Matt Gaddis, who just won one of the fall fling races, or Nick Hastings, who wins everything there is to win. If you go look through the statistics on, say, Drag Story or something for the results, you'll see runs that are not spectacular, but they're doing stuff during the run that makes you think it's spectacular. And then they win with like 20 and 30 packages, probably 50% of the time, believe it or not. Now, as far as bracket racing today versus bracket racing, I guess you could say back in the day, how have driving styles changed?
Yeah, it's definitely changed quite a bit. There was, from the 90s to the early 2000s, even the mid 2000s, you kind of had, guys that would, most guys would hold two or three numbers, let's say, in the quarter mile. Most of the bracket racing was quarter mile for us at that time, and I think that was one way. The other way was trying to dial that on as well, and then those were kind of the two prominent ways throughout that time frame. I think when the advent of nitrous has been around forever, but I think nitrous has changed the game quite a bit as well. I think guys holding, instead of 3, they're going to maybe 5 or 6 or 7. And, they've got ways of which they can change that run up while they're going down the racetrack, which I think is pretty interesting. I'm a pretty simple bracket racer, and I've done a little bit of bracket racing in the last year or so, and I've gone a ton of rounds and done decent, but so maybe I need to pay attention a little sharp, a little more keen to some of these newer tactics. But no, I still go back to the fact that I think it's important to keep things simple. And in my case, knowing your car is extremely important. Being able to predict what your car is going to do with the wind and the track and the weather for the run that's upcoming before you make the run, not after the run, like a lot of the armchair quarterbacks are great at. But and I think that's very important. I think getting more into the question now, when you are racing, pick 1 out of 10 names that come to your mind right now that might be holding 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 hundredths. It takes more of a discipline even in the other lane, because they're banking on you making an error, maybe like, holy shit, what is going on? What are they doing way out there? Why are they killing so much already? And bottom line is my car broke? Am I feeling stuff? And all this is going on at about a 2.5 to 3 second segment between, say, the 150 foot and 500 foot mark. And that only leaves you a couple tenths of a second from the 500 foot mark to the 660. So you've had a lot of confusion potentially. And I think the point I'm getting to, and I've been guilty of it, quite frankly, you just got to stay disciplined, stay focused. I'm going up there, I'm letting go. I'm going to try and set up on 10 on the let go. I'm going to use the bump down to kind of try and correct it, to mid 00 to 10, and keep it in that area. And my dial hopefully is going to be no more than a couple thou under at any time. But I've got a huge jug of nitrous that hits 600-700 RPMs when you tag the button, and it's going to move. So, but my point is the game plan is to be basically 4 to 8, 4 to 10 on the tree. And when I let go, I'm multi-processing in my own lane. Okay, how'd that feel? Does anything feel different? Does it sound right? And by the time it shifts, you make a decision. I feel like everything is on par. It should run right where I think it should. Say, dead 1, dead 2, and let's not even allow the other lane to factor into what I'm going to decide at this point in time. I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to see what's happening and try and remain focused and disciplined to keep my run going the way it is. Now, if I let go and correct it and feel like I'm going to be 6 or so on the tree and I leave, and you can kind of have a pretty good idea what your reaction time is as you're driving through the tree, and you're like, shit, that wasn't quite what I had in mind. Maybe I was 16 or 18 or 20, and now you got some work to do, and no matter who's in the other lane, a lot of times. So I don't know. It's bracket racing is very interesting. It's obviously extremely mathematical at all times, whether it be figuring out how you're going to run your delay, how you're going to stage. I mean, staging is very methodical and mathematical. Driving the finish line, I triangulate the finish line, front wheel to finish line, which is just one of a couple different processes. And so, at any rate, it's a tough mathematical equation each and every run you go up there. But I think if I go back into the previous conversation with a game plan and with some confidence and some experience, you can give yourself a good opportunity to turn a win light on each and every time. With some just solid, concepts and sticking to a game plan.
Definitely, man, because that's something that I found very interesting was whenever I look through results, believe it or not, the most, at least from what I've seen, and I mean, it was something just looking last weekend type thing through the results, but it was just something I was thinking about, and George and I were talking on the phone. The most likely run for those guys who hold 5 to 8 to 10, who knows how many numbers. Does anybody truly know how many numbers Jeff Serra has held at any given time, or Johnny for that matter? Probably not, but they might not know sometimes. But the most likely run for them to mess up, believe it or not, is whenever the other guy's like 80, because now you're holding 8, now you're holding 16 if you're perfect, and now no one knows what's going on. It's like luckiest man wins. So, but they would give it back in that particular scenario. There's only one scenario, so I'm not going to tell you which one it was, but it was one of them.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm sure that happens. But I watched quite a bit of the fall fling online and saw a couple of them go back the other way. But that's just aggressive driving. Bracket racing is so tough that you need to be near perfect on the starting line and be near perfect at the finish line, and a good portion of the time, that's not good enough either. So, it's a sport that's alive and well, and it's amazing, just to look through the calendar that's put together, every year with all the different races and the amount of races that are out there and the amount of money that's up for grabs, and it's exciting.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, guys, don't go anywhere. We got to give a word to our sponsors, and we will be right back with more from Jed Coughlin Jr. Don't go anywhere.
BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts are able to provide you with whatever you desire to enhance your drag racing operation. Items like safety belt magnets, nitrous bottle holders, and even quick release delay box mounts are able to be obtained from BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts. Have a look at top selling items such as helmet hooks and steering wheel hooks, which are proven to make it easier to maneuver throughout your race car. You can contact BRG Motorsports 3D printed racing parts at telephone number 765-729-1177.
Products is everything you need to make your Power Glide Turbo 350, Turbo 400, and 727 transmissions the best they can be on the street or at the track. With exceptional products, customer service, and over 30 years of experience, TSR Racing Products is always available to help their customers with any of their transmission needs. In-house machining ensures you only receive the best products from TSR Racing. Visit TSR Racing Products at tsr-racing.com or give them a call at 800-394-5889.
All right, guys, welcome back. Welcome back. Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel. Thanks very much to the sponsors, TSR Racing Products, Champs Performance, BRG 3D printed parts, Syntex Printing, Ken Jones Performance Parts. You guys are the greatest. Thank you guys for everything you do for us here at the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel. So definitely, guys, as we get back into the stream here with Jeg, I'm gonna ask here, and this is I love the word opinion here at Going Bracket Racing. So everybody's answer is seemingly always different, and everybody has a heart behind what they feel in the first place. This question will be fairly easy. I think I have a guess. Casey probably has a guess to this question, but we're gonna ask, what is the most prestigious race that you've attended? And if you wanna separate it between pro stock and bracket racing, I think that's fitting. So your answer?
Yeah, no, it's growing up as a young kid, in the mid '80s, growing into bracket racing, and watching my brother go off to Florida and run the 5-day here in West Palm Beach, Florida, at Rosso, was always kind of like one of those movie star events that I wanted to go to in my career, and so. I was fortunate to go to Rosso several times over the years, probably made 6 or 7 different 5 days in between 1993 and early 2000s. And, I was fortunate to win day 3. I can remember it like yesterday, right? Day 3 at Rosso in '93, the first year I went, had my brother John. I drove our rig down, had my street roadster in it that I just won the world championship with the year before in Super Gas, and his Horton dragster. And he was telling me right before I left, he's like, why don't you go ahead and just run my dragster the first couple of days, because I won't be there till Wednesday. And and I'd only driven a dragster one time before, and I loved it. I mean, it was amazing, right? And so I got down there and I ran it day 1 and didn't do too well day 1, but went a bunch of rounds day 2. And he got down there that late that night. And he's like, man, you look really good in that thing. Why don't you just keep running it all weekend. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You know, it's just like, this is your horse, man. And he always did very well in it. And he's like, no, man, I'll run the Roadster, you know. And I'm like, all right. So lo and behold, the next day, day 3, was able to go the distance. I think it was a 9-round race. I wish it was more fresh in my mind, but Kevin McKenna, you know, big historian and racer himself, but a big historian for the 5-day and bracket racing in general, had given me a printout of that day, of day 3 at Rosso, and it had every single run that went down the track, you know, who it was, where they were from, all the increments, who won the round, all the way down through the entire event. And it was really cool to go through that. You know, it had the dots on the side of the paper where it came out of the printer in 1993, and you know, ran some great cats that day. I think I ran Ike Hama, I ran Peter Biondo, ran Ricky Hughes at 4. Johnny LaBouse was in there. I ended up running. I mean, just unbelievable day. You know, and I find myself in day 3 was, and sorry I'm so damn long-winded here, but it was so cool. I got to tell you, and this is why it's the coolest event ever. Is day 3 was the casino night, the big barbecue night that they hosted. You know, it was a huge party, and I'd never been to this race before, so I mean, it's pretty cool. And the staging lanes were split. They had 2 staging lanes on the left side, and then they had a pit wall, which was for the road course, and then there was enough to do like 3 or 4 staging lanes, but they had 2 lanes going down the right side of the pit wall. And the last couple rounds rolling up for the quarters, the semis, and then the final, with the barbecue and the casino night going on. I mean, it seemed like there was 10,000 people there. And every time we were rolling up for the next round, it was like parting the sea, and people just, you know, you just kind of mosey up there slowly. People just kind of part out of the way, and after you go through them, they kind of just close in behind you again. And you know, I'll never forget, again, like yesterday, coming through that group of people for the final round, and I'm racing, you know, a guy that I just become really good friends with in recent that weekend and previous year or so was Kenny Underwood. He won everything there was in Rosso up to that point in time in previous years, and you know, here he is on, you know, looking to run another race and a part through the sea, and there's Kenny sitting there, long hair, got a Pepsi in his hand. I think he was even smoking a cigarette back then. So it was crazy. It was surreal, to say the least. And you know, he and I had a pretty good knockdown drag out, and you know, it fell in my favor, and turned the wind light on, and you know, we celebrated extremely hard. You know, I was, you know, 22 years old or so at the time, and you know, to win the biggest race on the planet in my mind was just so cool at that time. And so I'll be much shorter on the pro stock side. You know, we've had some amazing runs too. You know, but probably the most memorable, I think it was 07, the first year of the newly formed Countdown to the Championship. It was a scenario they took. I got 2 dogs decided to get. Hey, come on. Go.
Jaggy's got dogs coming in. They wanted to talk some drag racing too, fellas. Ladies and
Here we are. We're back live, man. Sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do, right?
That's what happens.
Anyway, we get to Pomona. It was the first year of the Countdown. I think with 6 races left, they took the top 8 points earners, and then with 2 races left, they took that down to 4. And so I was just barely in on the last 4. My teammate Dave Conley had won like 6 straight races in a row leading up to that time frame, and when we pulled into Pomona, we were in 3rd place in the championship, but within a round and a half or so of that opportunity, and we qualified well. I was, I think, 7th or 8th pair, and both Anderson and Dave had gone out in front of me round 1. And it was just this film that went through my body at that point in time, knowing the fact that, you know, we just had an unbelievable opportunity here. And I think I was racing either Richie Stevens or Larry Morgan round one, and went out, made one heck of a run, was sub 20 on the tree, and had a really fast car, and won the round. And when the wind light came on at the end of the track, first round, it just went through my mind that round two is a winner take all scenario, and to be the first NHRA champion under the new countdown format, and it was just really a cool feeling. Fast forward about 90 minutes, 75 to 90 minutes, and there we were with either Larry or Richie in the other lane, and had printed about the same run we did the round before. And I just remember praying to my car about third gear, going to fourth gear, going to fifth gear, because I knew it was just I knew I hit the tree really well, and I knew the car was accelerating like it had been, and knowing what I felt, what I saw and what I felt, there was a damn good chance that wind light was going to come on, and sure enough, it did. And I think I drove it to, if there was a first turn off, I drove it to it, making sure I got there first. But Pomona's a short racetrack. Again, long-windedly, I've had an amazing amount of neat things happen in the racing world. Pomona was always a fun event. The fans came from all around the world. With LAX right up the street, a lot of Hawaiians would come over, Australians who are huge into drag racing. So it was really neat to see that play out early in my career, and then to have that type of an experience to win a pro stock championship was ranks it up there toward the top.
Definitely the pinnacle, man. I mean, like I was saying earlier, that's what all sportsman racers kind of believe is the pinnacle, even whenever you're talking about the pro ranks. I know everybody talks about fuel, but I don't think there's a lot of bracket racers that think that way. But at least for this channel, people that are watching this, we think it's the pinnacle. But going back to what you were talking about in the previous question about the Moroso 5-day and all that stuff, did you ever imagine at that particular time that bracket racing would be where it is today, where seemingly if you have a great season in the last at least 2-3 years, if you've had a great season, maybe a little bit of sponsorship help or something like that, you can actually make just as good, if not better, of a living bracket racing than you can professional level racing?
It's definitely an opportunity, without question. I think when you look at the payouts at these races that are happening week in and week out, it's amazing. 320s in Virginia, and 50, 20, 50 here, and 100 here. It's mind blowing, quite frankly. But to your point, it's just a matter of being in the right place at the right time. In snagging. Getting an opportunity to put yourself in the money in some of these bigger races, and it can make your year in a hurry. On the other foot though, you can have everything right and drive extremely well and dial well and not get into the money, and that can make it more difficult to sustain over time. But I think with some good fortune and potentially some support from outside sources, certainly there's an opportunity to do well and do well financially in bracket racing. The professional racing is it is more probably driven from sponsorship, is where more the dollars come from. Not frowning on the prize monies or the championship monies at all, but certainly, as a professional racer that we experienced it for 20 plus years, the opportunities were on the sponsorship side, and the TV packages have gotten better. The now world has gotten better with live feeds going on at bracket races, live feeds going on from the professional NHRA races as well. So, I think there's a great opportunity to bring sponsorship at all of these levels of racing, not just professional racing. I think being a bracket racer you just got to be very crafty on where you pitch your story to, and trying to keep it within a good reasonable amount that can try and help support your racing and get you to the track and give you the confidence and the ability to try and win for a big check.
Definitely. So what, in your opinion, does the future of bracket racing hold? I mean, we were just talking about earlier, I don't know if it was, honestly, at this point, I don't even know if it was on the show or if it was us talking before the show or what the deal was, but we were just talking about how they had an absolutely insane turnout at Bristol, where they had 674 entries go down the track Friday for the Fall Fling 100K race. Mm-hmm. Where does bracket racing go from here in 2023 and then thereafter, as far as like racer attendance, payouts, number of events per year? I mean, can they pay $2 million to win? I mean, is that ship sailed now? It just seems like it was saturated for a while, but it doesn't seem like anything's slowing down.
No, it's mind-boggling, quite frankly. I mean, the bigger money races, the $500,000, the $1 million purses, and the quote-unquote guaranteed purses at that level has certainly done well, and it's also lends itself to lower car counts having an issue. So at the end of the day, I think what's important is we have good quality promoters that are putting together races, whether they're on a weekly basis at their home track, whether it's the track promoting it or outside promoters bringing races to facilities. It's at the end of the day, it's customer service, and it's creating an environment which creates an equal environment for each and everyone there that can come, enjoy, and do what they came to do in a fair manner. And that's I always said growing up, always wanted to live at a racetrack, right? I wanted to live at one, and I could go out and race every night. How cool would that be? These are dreams in your head. Even as an adult, you dream about it. But I don't know that I would ever want to be a track owner or promoter, because it's tough to make everyone happy each and every week. Given all the variables that have to be dealt with. But at the end of the day, on a positive note, there's an amazing number of races out there. I would certainly foresee 2023 continuing to be, play off the winds that 22 are blowing out. Hopefully, the economy can continue to sharpen up, get it closer to back to what it was a year or so ago. But that's yet to be seen. And in the meantime, that's why it's so important for the promoters and the tracks to put on great events and keep them affordable and attainable for racers to be able to come to. Will we see the bigger purse races continue to add on? My gut says probably not. We'll probably see a lot of the 20, 50, 100,000 to win type races. And yes, there'll still, I'm sure, still be, some $250,000 and potentially $500,000 races and $1 million races. But would love to see that full payout again in the coming years. And that would be awesome, as we've already seen in our lifetime. I mean, it's amazing. I made it to like 3 or 4 a.m. The first 500,000 to win race in Michigan, and it was just still boggles my mind. Had a heck of a payday. Got to 4 cars. Was trying to play Johnny Bracket Racer and ended up thinking I was ahead and was behind 001 against Gage Birch, who was pretty much killing everybody that weekend, and had a hell of a run the day before or 2 days before, and then again in the 500. And but just to learn the monetary difference between semifinalist and runner-up, or semifinalist and winner, was like, oh my God, that is, how can you be upset at yourself at what just transpired? And I wasn't, but you always what if things, right? And 1,000th was a very expensive 1,000th. I can promise you that. But
what I wanted to say, just since you brought that up, is I told George, I said the coolest thing, and I haven't talked to you until today, but what I always thought was cool is I know that for Gage, I don't know Gage either, but I would assume, because if I was in his position, how cool is it, George, to have Jade Coughlin be the first guy that shakes your hand after Dad has put him back on the ground? But how cool is that to have someone like Jade be the first one to congratulate you whenever you're that young?
It's gotta be pretty cool. I'll tell you what, I was at that race too, Jeggy, and you were just so happened to be the first person that I raced. It was a time trial. I'm telling you what, I tried to knock the tree off. I was 50, but it is what it is. That was a heck of a race. I think there was something like 720 something entries in that race. That warm up race. But definitely. So I just thought about it here, and it's seemingly, and this is opinion of mine, of course, but seems like the million and the 500,000 and all these big, huge races that we've come through acted as a stimulus should act for quote unquote in our economy. Bracket racing just went that quick. It all happened over a big 500 grander or a few hundred granders or this, that. Next thing you know, the Facebook sites are going crazy with everybody's car being upcharged and the prices are just steady rising and everybody's buying a bracket car. I just thought I'd throw that out there. It was just something I thought about as we've discussed if that will actually happen again. And I think it'll act as a stimulus here before too long. That's my thought.
Yeah, so, well, I think the remainder of 22 looks to be bright. Still some great races on the calendar, and I think when you look at 2023, I'm sure the calendar is going to look pretty similar to Double Deuce there, and I think it's going to be another great opportunity for bracket racing. And I know, good Lord willing, I'm going to hope to get to 5 to 10 of them myself next year as well, but I need to get the old practice tree out, because knocking the rust off at the races is not an easy feat to do anymore. And these bracket racing is so tough. It doesn't discriminate young, old, male, female. It does dragster, door car, altered, small block, big block. It just doesn't care. So it's just a matter of being one with your machine and being prepared and having a good day. And I love bracket racing, as you all know. It's been great to be on the show. And you mentioned Gage Birch. Maybe you need to have Gage on the show. We'll call him up here and see if he can't don the audience. He'd be great. I don't know him too well, but from what I do know of him and what I hear others talk about him, he's not only a great person but also an amazing racer, and races a lot here in South Florida. So maybe I'll run into him in my travels down this way.
Sure.
I'm sure if you plan on getting to a final, then you have to go through him at some point in Florida.
At some point.
Yeah.
At some point.
No doubt.
Him or his counterpart, Matt Daddis. So, they normally run together pretty good there. But last question before we let you get out of here. Actually, two more. The last one's pretty quick. But Motormania TV coming to bracket racing, and the thought of sponsorships being always it's a pretty big subject. Do you think that live streaming outlets such as Motormania TV helps provide bracket racers with some sort of an option to gain sponsorship? And do you think that if maybe we tapped the shoulder of said company and said, hey, Motormania will stream us for 15 hours straight, and get quite a bit of publicity. Do you see that maybe taking effect a little bit here in the future?
No question about it. I think all the live streaming, even if it's a local track that's got 2 or 3 cameras set up, and they're showing the computer screen and 2 or 3 different camera angles, I think is fantastic. But I think obviously the Motormanias of the world bring it in a much more organized and professional manner. And I think it does give the racer an opportunity to pitch to an audience of potential sponsors, whether they're local toward the event that they're going to, or whether they're local in their hometown or their area, or they're a global brand, such as Jegs, for example. Yes, there's definitely huge credibility to it. And I think you add not only that, but I think the promoters, in the last several years, and even more today than they did yesterday, are doing a better job, promoting their events through Instagram and Facebook, and I think you couple all the what I call the now worlds, the Instagrams and the Facebooks and the Twitters and so on, and then you couple that with the live stream of our events, the bracket races. I think that gives a racer a good package to be able to kind of assemble and provide information, credible information that's factual, what the viewers are expected to be, and nothing's guaranteed, but nonetheless, at least gives a great opportunity, I think, for the racer to do just that. And so I think there's certainly, hopefully, there's more and more racers being able to do that. And based on how many cool logos and different logos you see on people's race cars, I'd say that is working.
Absolutely.
I would agree. Is there anything that you feel you'd still like to accomplish as far as your personal racing career goes? I mean, you've kind of done everything, but is there anything that you still want to get done before you say, all right, I feel like I've done it?
No, I don't. It's not that there's not anything I want to accomplish. I think, I see myself, again, good Lord willing, racing into the wee dark years, right? Until I just physically can't do it anymore. So, and I'm of the mindset, that I'm there to win. I'm there to win the race, whether it's, we're, racing a grudge race or racing a $500 bracket race or 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. It's your goal there is to be prepared and give it a shot to win the overall title that day or that weekend. So I don't know that I really have anything set in stone that I'd like to accomplish. I mean, there's a lot of new promoters that have a lot of big races that would love to put my name on the list as a champion or a winner in their events. But nonetheless, that my goals don't change, whether I'm 52 today or hopefully 62, 72, 82, and hopefully still doing it.
Heard that.
Awesome, man. Well, we appreciate you spending all this time with us, man, but we want to give you the opportunity to thank whoever you want to thank before you get off the show. We appreciate you being here with us, and can't thank you enough.
Right on. Well, I'll start by thanking you guys for having me on. It's glad we run into one another. I think it was St. Louis there, and first off, it's an honor to be on the show, and I hope our audience enjoyed our dialogue tonight. And I've been fortunate to grow up in a racing family, and certainly I started my father Jeg and my family, my mom and my brothers. We raced together for 50. I'm 52, and a good 40 something years that I can recall going to the races and being a part of it. And so without question, that's been our drive. And with our family name, with Jegs, certainly would love to thank them for all their love and support. And over the years, I mean, our company's like family, and we've had folks celebrate 50 years with Jegs, 40 years, 30 years, 20 years, 10 years, and one day, and everything in between. And that's what's made our company in the last 60 plus years what it is, and that is a family-oriented, customer service-driven company. So thank you to all the folks at Jegs. I don't see you all on a day-to-day basis as I have in the past, but love y'all, and again, appreciate being on the show tonight. It's been a lot of fun, and if we need a refresh down the road, give me a holler.
Absolutely.
We definitely will.
You know how we do it here at the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel. We will see you guys next Tuesday. Take it easy.